The sun dipped low over Yosemite National Park, painting the granite cliffs in molten orange. The winding road carved through towering pines, their needles shimmering in the warm California light. A dusty blue Jeep Wrangler rolled into the trailhead parking lot. The engine cut and David Miller, 27, stepped out, stretching after the long drive. He wore worn hiking boots, cargo shorts, and a faded red flannel. His hair was sun-bleached from countless climbs. On the passenger side, Laura Bennett, 25, swung the door open. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, adjusting the straps of her backpack. Her laugh carried in the crisp air as she teased, "Told you we should have left earlier. Look at that sky. We're gonna be racing daylight." David smirked. "Relax. We've got time. Besides, isn't the sunset the whole point?" They slammed the Jeep door shut. The sound echoed into the stillness of the valley. Their boots crunched against gravel as they began the trail. Birds scattered from the underbrush. Somewhere distant, water cascaded. A faint whisper of Yosemite Falls. David pulled a folded map from his back pocket, tapping a trail marker with his finger. "We'll follow this up toward Glacier Point, then set camp by the ridge. Perfect view, no tourists." Laura rolled her eyes, smiling. "You just want to show off your climbing skills." "Guilty," David grinned, tightening the straps on his pack. As they hiked, the forest grew denser. Shadows stretched long between the trees, swallowing the trail in patches of blue dusk. Laura slowed, looking back. "Kinda quiet, isn't it?" "Yeah," David admitted. "That's why I love it." But the quiet was different now. Thicker. Heavy. By nightfall, they reached a small clearing overlooking the valley. The last light of day spilled across Half Dome, majestic and surreal in the fading glow. David pitched the tent while Laura gathered firewood. The crackle of a campfire soon broke the silence, sparks spiraling into the night sky. Laura leaned back against her pack, sipping from a flask. "You know, most couples just do dinner and a movie." David laughed. "And miss this?" He gestured at the sweeping horizon, stars igniting above them. She smiled softly, resting her head on his shoulder. "Okay, you win." The flames danced, painting their faces in amber light. Somewhere in the trees, an owl hooted. Hours later, the fire burned low. Laura stirred awake inside the tent, shivering. The wind had picked up, rattling the nylon walls. She glanced at David, still asleep, breathing slow and steady. Then she heard it, just outside. A crunch. A shift of gravel. Her breath caught. She whispered, "David?" but didn't shake him. The sound faded. The forest returned to silence. Laura exhaled, convincing herself it was nothing. Just the wind. Just the forest. She closed her eyes again. But in the distance, a faint light flickered between the trees, like a lantern, moving slowly, deliberately. In the summer of 1996, two young hikers set out into Yosemite's wilderness. They carried maps, gear, and dreams of adventure. By morning, their tent would be found, their car still parked at the trailhead. But Laura Bennett and David Miller would never return. The sun cracked through the granite cliffs, painting Half Dome in pale gold. Ranger Eliza King killed the engine of her truck, stepped out, and adjusted her pack. Eliza, into radio. "Dispatch, Ranger King. Starting a welfare check on overnight permit 34. Copy?" "Dispatch," radio crackle. "Copy, King. Check in on the hour." She hiked up the trail, boots crunching on gravel. Birds scattered. Somewhere distant, Yosemite Falls roared faintly. In a clearing, she spotted the orange nylon tent, half collapsed, one flap open. The ashes in the fire ring were cold. A blue enamel mug lay overturned. "Eliza," calling out. "Ranger Service, David, Laura?" Silence. She crouched, unzipping the tent. Inside, a disposable camera lay on the ground, grit clinging to its plastic shell. She turned it in her hands. 21 shots taken, 6 left undeveloped. 2 sets of boot prints led away from camp side by side. Eliza followed, weaving through manzanita until the prints vanished on bare granite. By the rim, she found a small cairn stacked at the cliff's edge. 3 stones, deliberately placed. Eliza, murmuring, "That's not random." She radioed in, requested backup. Within an hour, the trailhead buzzed with orange-vested search and rescue volunteers. Dogs barked, ropes uncoiled. Mark Voss, SAR leader. "Run us through it, Ranger." Eliza. Camp intact, tent open. Prints led east along the rim. Found cairns, like markers, no fall signs. Something feels off. The K9 Tango sniffed a bandana from camp, bolting eastward. The dog stopped at a fallen pine, whining, tail rigid. Eliza knelt, brushing back bark. The soil underneath had been smoothed as if swept. Eliza, to Mark. "Somebody erased tracks here. Drag marks, but nothing dragged." Mark frowned. "That doesn't make sense." Eliza. "Neither does a missing couple with breakfast mugs still warm." Later, at the ranger truck, Eliza flipped through the freshly developed prints. Frame 1, David and Laura smiling by the tent. Frame 2, campfire sparks in the night. Frame 3, blurred trees under flash. Frame 4, a strange light in the distance, low and steady. Frame 5, closer, between lodge poles, glowing unnaturally. Frame 6, a smear of white light, a partial face twisted in alarm. Mark, shaking head. "Could have been another hiker's lantern." Eliza, pointing. "No beam, no cone, that's not a lantern, it's something else." That evening, Eliza volunteered for night watch along the rim. At 11:52, the breeze shifted. At 12:03, the K9 stirred, ears pricking east. At 12:11, a pale light bloomed among the trees, floating steady. Voice, female, distant. "Dave?" Eliza spun. Nothing but shadows. Voice again, softer. "Dave." Her radio hissed. Eliza, into radio. "I have a voice phenomenon, female, mimicking, possible subject, or not." The light pulsed once, then drifted toward the cliff edge, waiting. Eliza forced herself to stay rooted. Eliza, whispering, "If that's you, Laura, tell me the color of your pack." A pause. Then the same voice repeated, broken, metallic. "Tell me the color of your pack." The dog whined. The cairn at her feet shifted, one stone rolling off the stack without a sound. Eliza's jaw clenched. Eliza, into radio. "Standing down. No approach. We regroup at dawn." By the morning of July 6, 1996, the camp was found intact but empty. 2 mugs by the fire, a half-collapsed tent, and 6 photographs that raised more questions than answers. Rangers searched, dogs tracked, and stones shifted on the rim. What began as a weekend hike was now a disappearance, one that whispered in voices not their own, and led investigators to the edge of something they couldn't explain. By the second morning, news vans lined the park entrance. Reporters shoved microphones toward anyone in uniform. Helicopters droned overhead. Reporter asked, "Ranger King, are you confirming this is now a missing persons case?" Eliza answered, "Yes. David Miller and Laura Bennett are officially missing. We've escalated to a full search and rescue operation." Flashbulbs fired. Headlines wrote themselves. At the ranger station, Laura's parents sat stiff in plastic chairs. Her mother clutched a rosary so tight her knuckles blanched. Mrs. Bennett said, "She called us Friday night. She was excited. She said the view was beautiful. She didn't sound scared." Mr. Bennett added, "If something happened, you'll find her. You'll bring her back." Eliza nodded, though her stomach turned. "We'll do everything we can." Teams fanned out across granite ledges, lowering on ropes. Dogs barked at cracks in the stone, whining when handlers tried to push them forward. Handler said, "He doesn't want to go near it. And trust me, Tango loves tight spaces." Eliza replied, "Mark it. We'll come back." Volunteers combed ridges, calling names. Searchers shouted, "David, Laura, if you can hear us, shout back." The forest answered only with echoes. In town, the county sheriff faced a wall of cameras. His voice was steady, rehearsed. Sheriff Daniels said, "At this time, we have no evidence of foul play. The couple may have become disoriented or fallen while exploring off-trail." A reporter pressed. Reporter asked, "What about the photographs, the lights?" The sheriff shifted. Sheriff Daniels replied, "Those images are under review. We cannot speculate." That night, Eliza sat with a small group of volunteers on the ridge. Midnight came. At exactly 12:17 a.m., a pale glow shimmered between the lodge poles just as before. Volunteer whispered, "That's no lantern." Eliza said firmly, "Nobody moves. Nobody follows." But a young rookie, nervous and curious, rose halfway to his feet. Eliza barked, "Sit down. That's an order." The rookie froze. The glow pulsed once, then faded into the trees. At first light, a team descending a ravine found a scrap of fabric snagged on bark, bright red flannel. Volunteer called out, "We've got clothing. Bag it." Eliza rushed down, holding it in her hands. It matched David's shirt, torn at the sleeve, threads frayed. Eliza muttered, "If he fell, where's the rest of him?" By July 7, 1996, Yosemite's wilderness had swallowed two young lovers whole. Their tent remained. Their car remained. Their families remained. But Laura and David were gone. Searchers found only scraps, fabric, photographs, footprints that led nowhere. And every night at 12:17, the forest offered a glow that no one dared follow. Televisions in motels across California flickered with the same siren. Anchor said, on TV, two hikers, identified as David Miller, 27, and Laura Bennett, 25, have vanished during a weekend trip to Yosemite National Park. Their tent and vehicle were found, but the couple remains missing. The footage cut to helicopters circling granite domes, volunteers combing ridges, and the anxious faces of parents waiting outside the ranger station. At a diner near the park entrance, reporters swarmed a tourist who claimed to have seen something strange. Tourist said, "I was driving back from Glacier Point that night, around midnight. I swear I saw two figures on the overlook holding hands, then, bam, this flash of light, like a camera going off in the dark. When I blinked, they were gone." A journalist scribbled fast. Reporter asked, "You're certain it wasn't another hiker with a flashlight?" Tourist replied, "Flashlights move. This didn't. It was fixed, almost alive." Back at the county office, Sheriff Daniels faced another press conference. His jaw was tight. Sheriff Daniels said, "At this time, we have no evidence of foul play. Search and rescue efforts will continue until further notice. We urge the public not to speculate." A hand shot up. Reporter asked, "Sheriff, what about reports of unusual lights seen near the rim?" Sheriff Daniels replied curtly, "Unverified. This is a wilderness area. Light can play tricks through the trees." Laura's parents stood in front of microphones, faces gray from sleepless nights. Mrs. Bennett said, "My daughter is kind, strong, and careful. She wouldn't just wander off, please. If anyone saw something, speak up." Her voice broke. Reporters lowered their pens, awkward in the silence. Mr. Bennett added firmly, "We won't stop until she's found." At the ranger cabin, Eliza slumped over case files. The disposable camera prints lay spread across the desk, haunting her. Eliza muttered to herself, 6 frames, 6 pieces of a puzzle that doesn't add up." Mark Voss stepped in, rubbing his temples. Mark said, "You did everything you could. Some cases, they just don't resolve." Eliza shot back, "Not good enough. People don't vanish in plain sight. Not without help, or something else." By the end of the summer, newspapers across the country picked it up. Anchor said, on national TV, "Yosemite, usually known for its beauty, is now the backdrop of a haunting mystery. 2 young hikers, gone without a trace. The case is drawing comparisons to the famous disappearance of..." Laura and David's smiling photos filled the screen. By the fall of 1996, Laura Bennett and David Miller's story had traveled far beyond Yosemite's granite walls. Witnesses claimed to see lights. Authorities dismissed them. Parents pleaded. Headlines screamed. But the truth remained buried. As the years turned, the trail grew colder and silence settled over the mountains. At every holiday dinner, Laura's parents left an empty chair. The ritual became unbearable. Mrs. Bennett said softly, "I still set a plate, just in case. Just in case she walks through the door." Mr. Bennett replied, voice low, "She's not coming back, Mary. We have to face it." Mrs. Bennett snapped, "No, she's out there. I can feel it. A mother knows." The room fell silent, heavy with years of grief. At Yosemite's ranger station, younger rangers whispered when Eliza walked by. Stories of the missing couple had grown into legend. Rookie ranger said, "They say if you're on the ridge at midnight, you'll see a light, like a lantern, hovering." Another ranger added, "And if you follow it, you don't come back." Eliza overheard, her jaw tightening. Eliza interrupted, "Don't repeat campfire tales. 2 people vanished. That's fact enough." But when she walked away, she couldn't shake the image of that glow at 12:17. In 2003, a middle-aged hiker reported an eerie encounter to the park office. Hiker said nervously, "I was out near Taft Point. I swear I heard a woman's voice." She called out, "Dave?" Clear as day. But I was alone. Park clerk asked, "You sure it wasn't another hiker?" Hiker shook his head. There was no one else out there. And the weirdest part? My name's Dave. The clerk filed it as unsubstantiated. In 2005, outside the courthouse, Laura's mother confronted the sheriff after another year with no progress. Mrs. Bennett demanded, "Why won't you keep looking? Why are you giving up on them?" Sheriff Daniels sighed. "We've spent years, ma'am, hundreds of hours, thousands of dollars. We've found nothing." Mrs. Bennett shouted, "You found nothing because you're not looking in the right places." Her words echoed off stone steps as cameras rolled, capturing the raw wound of a family abandoned by the system. That same year, Eliza hiked back to the clearing where the couple had camped. The tent was long gone, the fire ring buried under pine needles. But she sat there anyway, staring into the trees. Eliza whispered to herself, "Where did you go? What did you see?" The forest didn't answer, but at the rim, balanced stones stood in a neat stack, 3 high, freshly placed. Eliza's hand trembled. She hadn't told anyone she was coming here. By 2008, the county filed the case as inactive. No new leads, no new evidence. Clerk said flatly at the hearing, "Case number 96-2R4, status changed to closed until further notice." Laura's parents sat in silence, unable to protest anymore. David's brother stormed out, slamming the door. David's brother muttered outside, "Closed doesn't mean solved." By the late 2000s, the case of David Miller and Laura Bennett was no longer front-page news. The world moved on. The park returned to silence. But whispers lingered, stories of lights in the pines, voices calling in the dark. The file was stamped inactive, but in Yosemite's granite heart, the mystery never closed. In 2012, a shaky cell phone clip hit YouTube. A group of college hikers filmed themselves laughing near Taft Point, until the camera caught a pale light hovering between the trees. Student on video whispered, "Dude, do you see that? That's not a headlamp." The light pulsed once, then vanished. The clip spread fast, titled, "Yosemite Ghost Light, Same Spot as Missing Couple?" Forums buzzed. Reddit threads dissected every pixel. User ShadowHiker92 wrote, "It matches reports from '96. They followed that light." User Skeptic replied, "It's just lens flare. Don't make it paranormal." User Lantern Watcher posted, "My cousin was on SAR back then. He said they heard voices calling their own names. Still won't talk about it." In 2015, Eliza, retired now, sat at a cafe in Fresno with Mark Voss. Mark said, "They're making documentaries about it now. Kids online think Yosemite's haunted." Eliza replied bitterly, "Haunted? 2 real people are still missing, Mark. This isn't a campfire story." Mark sighed. "Tell that to the clicks. The internet doesn't care about truth. It cares about fear. Eliza shook her head, staring into her coffee. A true crime podcast devoted an episode to the case. The host's voice was smooth, eerie. Host said, on audio, in 1996, David Miller and Laura Bennett vanished without a trace. Was it an accident, a crime, or something stranger? Tonight we explore the evidence and the legend of the Yosemite Light. Clips of parents' pleas, sheriff's denials, and that viral video layered under haunting piano chords. In 2018, a junior FBI analyst in Quantico opened the old case file, flagged in a database search connecting it to other unsolved wilderness vanishings. Analyst said to supervisor, "Sir, the Yosemite case has parallels. Same patterns, camp intact, light anomalies, timestamps repeating. Should we elevate?" Supervisor replied cautiously, "Don't stir ghosts unless you can prove they're real. But keep an eye on it." A French couple reported hearing voices while hiking near the ridge. Tourist, translated. "We heard a woman call Dave twice, but there was no one. We checked the path. Empty." The ranger who filed the report scrawled one line at the bottom. "Third report this summer. Same word, same place." By the 2010s, David and Laura's disappearance was no longer just a cold case. It had become a legend, fed by viral videos, podcasts, and whispers of strange lights. To some, it was folklore. To others, unfinished business. And deep within the FBI archives, a box of evidence began to matter again. The summer sun beat down as a construction crew widened a service road near Glacier Point. Machines rattled, shovels scraped earth. One worker's pick struck something hollow. Worker number 1 said, frowning, "Hey, this ain't rock. Feels like wood." They dug carefully, pulling away soil until a fragment of fabric emerged, stiff and weathered. Worker number 2 muttered, "That's a jacket. Jesus, that's a jacket." The clearing went quiet. Radios crackled as the foreman called it in. Within hours, the site was swarming with law enforcement. A tarp went up. Evidence markers lined the ground. Detective Nolan said firmly, "Bag everything. Nobody touches it barehanded." On the ground lay a red flannel sleeve, frayed but recognizable. Nearby, a water-damaged journal rested inside a rusted tin box. Its pages, though blurred, still carried ink. Forensic tech whispered, "This is still legible." Inside the ranger office, gloves on, Nolan flipped through the journal pages. Some were smeared, but others clear enough to freeze her blood. Scrawled handwriting read, "We saw the light again. Laura says it's not natural. It waits. Always at 12:17. Nolan muttered, "They wrote about it. They actually wrote it down." 2 black SUVs rolled into Yosemite's ranger station. Doors slammed, suits stepped out. Special Agent Lucas Park introduced himself. "Agent Park, FBI. This case is ours now." Eliza, older, retired but present at the scene out of stubborn loyalty, stood to greet him. Eliza said bitterly, 24 years too late." Agent Park replied evenly, "Late is better than never. We're here to find out what happened." In a conference room, evidence bags covered the table. The red flannel, the journal, rusted utensils, and a corroded pocket knife with initials faintly scratched. DM Agent Park said to his team, "This isn't just lost property. This is a crime scene frozen in time." Eliza cut in sharply. "Or something else entirely. Ask anyone who stood watch back in '96. This wasn't just a fall." The room went silent. In the summer of 2020, Yosemite gave up what it had hidden for nearly 25 years. A torn sleeve, a rusted knife, a journal whispering of a light that waited at 12:17. For the first time in decades, the FBI reopened the case. The mountains had not forgotten, and neither had whatever lingered between the trees. At Yosemite's ranger station, FBI techs laid out the recovered items. Gloves snapped, cameras clicked. Agent Park said firmly, "Photograph everything. Cross-reference with the original 1996 file." A young tech slid the journal under UV light. Faded ink flared, revealing words invisible before. We thought it was a ranger's lantern. It wasn't. Tech whispered nervously. They knew. They knew it was wrong. Back in town, the FBI tracked down the tourist from 1996 who once claimed to see a flash. He was older now, gray at the temples. Agent Rivera asked, "Sir, what exactly did you see that night?" Witness said, voice shaking, "I saw them, holding hands at the overlook. Then a light, like a camera flash, but it didn't fade. It held, like it was alive. And then, nothing. They were gone." Agent Rivera pressed, "Why didn't you come forward again?" Witness lowered his eyes. "Because the sheriff told me to shut up, said I was confusing people." The 6 infamous photos from the disposable camera were digitized, enhanced by modern software. Analyst said cautiously, "Image 4, we stabilized the pixels. That's not just a glow, there's a shape." The screen showed a figure outlined in the light, too tall, too thin, its proportions wrong. Agent Park muttered, "Not human, not a lantern." Eliza crossed her arms. Eliza said, "That's what I've been telling you since '96. The FBI staged a controlled stakeout at the same overlook. Sensors, cameras, audio recorders lined the rim. At 12:17, the air shifted. The monitors spiked static. Tech said urgently, temperature drop, 10 degrees in under a minute. Then a faint female voice drifted across the clearing. "Dave?" Every agent froze. Agent Park whispered into comms, "Hold positions. Nobody moves." The voice came again, this time clear, close, and horribly familiar. "Tell me what color your pack is." Eliza's eyes widened. Eliza said, trembling, "That's my line. That's exactly what I said that night." Cameras caught a sudden burst of light moving between the trees. A cairn by the rim shifted, its top stone rolling off soundlessly. Agent Rivera shouted, "Did you see that? It moved on its own." The light pulsed once, then streaked toward the cliff edge. Monitors scrambled, static consuming every feed. In August 2020, the FBI brought science and discipline to the ridge where 2 young lovers vanished. But instruments failed, voices returned, and the light came again. 24 years after Laura and David disappeared, the mountain repeated its message, unchanged, unstoppable, and waiting. Inside a temporary command center, agents crowded around screens showing corrupted footage from the ridge. Analyst said nervously, "All feeds went dead at exactly 12:17 a.m. The last frame shows the light, expanding." The screen froze on a blurred glow stretching across half the image. Agent Rivera muttered, "It's like it wanted to be seen." Agent Park replied coldly, "Or it wanted to remind us who's in control." Days later, the FBI held a press conference. Cameras flashed. The crowd leaned in. Spokesperson said carefully, "Evidence has been recovered relating to the disappearance of David Miller and Laura Bennett. At this time, the investigation remains open. We cannot comment on unverified phenomena." A reporter shouted. Reporter asked, "Are you saying it's supernatural?" Spokesperson answered firmly, "No, we are saying it is unexplained." That night, Eliza walked the ridge alone, lantern in hand. She paused at the cairn site, stones stacked 3 high once again. Eliza whispered, "I'm sorry, Laura." "I'm sorry, David. We tried." The wind shifted. A voice rose, faint, broken, yet undeniable. Voice, female, distant. "Eliza." She froze. Eliza whispered back, "I'm here." The voice came again, closer now, layered as though spoken by more than one throat. Voice, "We were wrong." Eliza's lantern sputtered, then died. Sensors left behind by the FBI recorded a last burst. Temperature plummeting, static surging, a sound like stone grinding against stone. At the exact same moment, the cairn collapsed, every rock toppling in perfect silence. In October 2020, the FBI filed its final report, Insufficient Evidence, Case Unresolved. But the mountains keep their own records, etched in stone, whispered in voices that should not return. The file on Laura Bennett and David Miller remains open, and every night, at 12:17, a light still waits at the edge of Yosemite's cliffs.